Oh, shoot. And we are live. Friends, welcome to CFLW, the show for this Friday, August the 29th. The Labor Day weekend is upon us, and we have a lot to talk about. Appreciate you guys joining me live for the show here. Hope you're doing well on this Friday. Hope a lot of folks are going to be tuning in because there's plenty to go over, especially if you have outdoor holiday weekend plans, right? The weather is going to be impactful across Central Florida. For all of those plans, we're going to break it down for you here live. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Kevin. Good afternoon from the Lakeland area. Double A of the house from Deltona. Leilani from Lake City up there near the I-10 corridor. How are you doing today? A little bit of rain up there already. Yes, and it is a sign of things to come. So let's get started, friends. CFLW, the show is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. Your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, they cover the entire state from the Panhandle down to the Keys. Doesn't matter where you are in Florida, they can help you out. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process so you get damage of any kind to your home. Go to leanonmelaw.com. All right, great to see you. Now, we're just taking a quick look at the visible satellite imagery, temperatures on the board, and already we're building in some cloud coverage here across the area. So temperatures at the 1 o'clock hour aren't excessively hot. They're mainly in the mid upper 80s, a couple of spots right around 90 degrees. When you factor in the humidity, your feels like temperatures are still a little bit on the steamier side. Again, cloud coverage in the early part of the day can trap in some of that low level moisture, and so you do get some, temperatures for feels like numbers that are well above where the actual air temperatures are. So they're not horrible, but what it really feels like outside, especially in our western zones, near or at the 100-degree mark already, and those will continue to climb. The one thing is, outside of any of the storms that we'll be talking about over the weekend, it is going to be a pretty hot and muggy forecast in most areas. Now, I will caveat that by saying by Monday, we might be such shrouded in cloud coverage here that, temperatures will be way off, and that might drop off some of those feels like numbers as well. There's impactful weather for Central Florida each and every day of the holiday weekend. Unfortunately, that just happens to be the case, but we'll break it down for you. Of course, we have our live camera network here at CFLW, so we want to show you those. This is going to be a live shot to Winter Garden, the western side of Orange County. Again, kind of a thinner layer of those high clouds, those high cirrus clouds, little bit of development of a couple of cumulus clouds at the hour. Nothing very vertically stacked, but we're going to see the West Coast sea breeze march inland again, and that should spell some showers and storms breaking out a little bit later in the day. Live look outside to Winter Park. We're going to call this one the lean log cam as we look to Winter Park. And again, it's a beautiful day. We're looking east-southeast at the hour, but again, storms will continue to develop a little bit later in the day. And friends, as always, if you look in the bottom of the screen, scrolling, you're going to see live current temperatures and weather currently happening across most Central Florida cities. So take a look at that for your current temperature and what's happening in your area. Again, broken deck of clouds across Conway at the hour, the southeast side of the downtown Orlando area. A little bit of a breeze, but nothing too fresh outside right now. And again, the air being still, it makes it feel pretty steamy outside in these afternoon hours. Looking okay so far at the attractions. A bit of a murky sky here as we look south and east towards the Magic Kingdom. Again, the Disney property just a mile from this camera, and we're looking back towards the property to the south and to the east. So again, we'll be watching for some storms a little bit later in the day. But at this point in time, in most of Central Florida, we are high and dry. Let me get back over to the old weather computer here and kind of break down what's going to be happening today. And then there's just a lot to talk about for the weekend ahead as well. Let me throw on our composite radar image here, show you a couple of showers. Now, Leilani's up there in Lake City, and you can clearly start to see the development of the showers here across the I-10 corridor, but especially back into southern sides of Georgia and the western panhandle of the state. These are live current temperatures, okay? It's 76 in Brunswick, Albany, Georgia, 74, Pensacola area, 72. You get the idea of what's headed our way. And again, it's interesting because north of the boundary, temperatures are back into the lower 80s in a lot of spots. But with the extra clouds and the heavy rain that is slowly sinking its way off towards the south, it is a very unusually cool afternoon here for the northern part of our state, southern sides of Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, even Louisiana. And again, this all comes along with this boundary, which is noted right along or just to the south of where we have all the heavier rain. And this boundary is going to be slowly sinking south and basically stalling out over Central Florida over the weekend. And if you've heard me say this a few times this year, this summer season, you're going to hear me say it at least one more time for this weekend. Waves of energy will be developing off of that stalled front in the eastern Gulf and then sliding right across our peninsula and into the western Atlantic throughout the weekend, aided by the sea breeze activity, helping to provide a certainly above average chance for showers and storms. It is a wet, it is a stormy forecast with a lot of extra cloud coverage as well. Again, I wish I had a better forecast. And by the way, these are feels like temperatures, which when you get into the rain, it's going to be the same thing as your air temperature. So let me just switch over to that. Still a lot of 70s. I said, oh, look at Mobile, got down to 67. Whew. Again, chilly weather for late August, no doubt about it. So this boundary comes and settles over our area. And then we're just going to see waves of energy. The East Coast sea breeze early in the day could try and march on shore a little bit, but ultimately it's the West Coast sea breeze and all of the mid-level flow out of the west that's going to pull most of the showers and storms from west to east. The biggest question, and the thing that I'm going to try and answer more for you guys in this live stream, is when are the storms going to arrive in your area, not if you're going to have showers and storms, because I have about an 80% chance for rain each and every day through Labor Day in most areas. It is unfortunately a wet forecast, and already you can see a few showers are beginning to dot the landscape up in portions of East Citrus County, Inverness towards Floral City, trying to sneak into Sumter County, and then Macadamarian County towards Ocala. It's just a couple of spotty showers at the hour. This is what it looks like on the radar out of the Melbourne area. Again, all of those lightning strikes are well away from us. They're actually offshore showers and storms, a couple sneaking up towards Walker's Key there in the far northern side of the Bahamas. But that's about it for now. And again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Quick second, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button for me right now, I really appreciate that. You have a specific question about the holiday weekend forecast, I appreciate you guys dropping that in the comments section below. And again, just being an active part of the channel here really means a lot to me. Threw on the winds just to take a look. Nothing is outrageous at the hour. And again, we're just going to have, couple of boundaries, but the main one is going to be here, and that's all going to be sinking its way off towards the south as we move through the remainder of the weekend. Now, so far we're quiet, but already this is the excessive rainfall outlook for today. And we're not even talking about Saturday, Sunday, and Monday yet. So later in the day, just like we had yesterday, late afternoon, early evening. Thunderstorms are likely to develop near the I-4 corridor and work their way back towards the East Coast, with additional storms sinking to the south from the I-10 corridor. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. You get the storms in Jacksonville and Lake City and Tallahassee that work their way south through the latter part of the day, and then storms locally develop kind of in Lake County, Polk County, just like they did yesterday, and make a run across Seminole and Orange and Osceola counties and towards the coastline, Flagler, Daytona Beach area, Volusia County, and into Brevard County. But this is, again, it's not a high chance. This green means that there's a 5 to 10% chance of exceeding flash flood criteria in these areas, right? So locally heavy downpours are likely to go along with some gusty winds. Just like yesterday, can't rule out special weather statements for winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour. Can't rule out a little bit of rotation that we're going to have to be monitoring as well. But again, it's just the beginnings of what's going to be a pretty wet forecast here across the area. So the first thing I want to do is just break down what's going to happen the remainder of today. And then we're going to deep dive into the weekend forecast again, because there's just a lot to kind of go over for you guys. So let me switch over to our HER model here. Again, it's our high resolution rapid refresh. Here we go. How we doing, Chessie? 91 degrees in Spring Hill, in the 70s, and very, very humid. When you have a 91 and a 75 degree dew point, that's a feels like temperature that gets you around 100 or higher. Hey, Gina, good afternoon. Hoping for a decent weather this weekend. Gina, I hope and wish that was the case. I do not have good news in that regard. Am I willing to call it a complete washout? No, but I will very clearly say that if you do have outdoor weekend plans, you might want to already be thinking about some indoor alternates. Hey, Charles. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Hi, Nancy. Yeah, a little bit cooler, much better than the hurricane. Yeah, no doubt about it. Hope it misses the villages. Gina, unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about, hey, you know, I think that there's a good chance for storms in this part of Central Florida, and this part of Central Florida is going to avoid the storms. This is wide scale, right? This is numerous storms. This is a boundary sitting over us, producing waves of energy, enhancing the sea breeze, and just keeping it a very active forecast for the next several days, right? Again, is it going to be an all-day thing? For the most part, no. But there are some areas that could get into some rain at daybreak and then stay wet and stormy a fair amount of the day. And unfortunately, the rain chances overall, or that opportunity for more widespread all-day rain, gets higher the deeper into the Labor Day weekend that we go. But let's, first things first, as they say. So here it is for right now. Again, her model's doing well. Few thunderstorms and some rain up towards I-10, but generally quiet. As we get towards 3 o'clock, it's the first bubbling up of a few storms. Again today, still expecting the west coast sea breeze to kick in and push everything off towards the east. Now the east coast sea breeze has been able to nudge a little bit inland, and that's where we could see a few clashing of boundaries in interior locations. And anytime you have those clashing of boundaries, you do have to watch out again, you know, for some rotation with some of the storms. You know, we had some, you know, broad low-level rotation with the storms yesterday, right? You know, even some radar indicated a little bit of tightening of couplets, nothing that ever hit the ground, but some squirrely looking clouds, some SLCs, as I call them, scary looking clouds, could be in store again today as these boundaries begin to collide. Now, just like yesterday, you know, the HER model wants these storms to develop a little bit more prominently across I-4 from Kissimmee and Celebration towards MCO in Orlando, back up to Witter Park and Altamont Springs, and Sanford and Deltona and DeLand towards Daytona Beach, with a potential few storms back in our western areas, portions of Hillsborough County, even, you know, interior Hernando and Pasco counties can't be ruled out. But certainly later in the day, storms will be a little bit more prominent east and south. Now, just like yesterday, if you guys remember, storms were a little bit quicker to move in the southern part of our area compared to north. And that's what I expect again for today. That's why the excessive rainfall bends back into Marion County, because the rain over, you know, the storms over Alachua County and Marion County and Putnam and Northern Lake and Flagler and St. John's and Volusia counties could be much slower moving storms compared to from the Orlando area south and east, right? And then as we get towards 8 o'clock, again, you know, still could have some impactful storms across I-4, the main threat being the winds of 40 plus, but maybe even 50 and 55, maybe some smaller sized hail, but it's the winds. And again, storms could be a little bit more clustered. And anytime they do that, just like they did yesterday in Metro Orlando, you're going to have some locally heavy rainfall. You're going to have some winds that could be a problem, and even some smaller sized hail. So late in the evening hours here, we could see these storms try and kind of cluster up central southern sides of Brevard County, Osceola County, back towards Indian River County, and all kind of working their way south and east, and then pushing offshore here a little bit into the evening hours of this Friday. So I'm going to loop it up so you guys can take a quick look at this. Now, within this area, we could have several inches of rain in isolated locations, okay? Each and every day, there's going to be the potential for some flash flooding, or at least some low-level flooding, ponding on roadways, things like that, right? And then the other big story is, I think these are going to be intense storms. I think these storms are going to produce a lot of lightning, just like they did yesterday. Remember when those storms fired up in Lake County, we had over 400 lightning strikes in a 15-minute time frame. This, I point out, because so many of us want to be outdoors this weekend, but you really have to take the threat for lightning seriously, especially along the coast. You're going to the attractions, even if you're just having the barbecue outside. The simplest thing is when thunder roars, you head indoors. You got to really respect, I think, the lightning that we could be produced out of this. You know, there is a lightning algorithm that goes along with the HER model. I'm going to loop this up. I haven't looked at it myself. I'm just curious. But the bottom line is that, and again, you can clearly see as these storms get a little bit stronger, the lightning algorithm picks up here, but there's not going to be many areas where we're just in store for rain, you know? And again, this is just kind of the clusters of lightning here. I don't know if I've actually ever queried this. I think this is by intensity. Interesting. Listen, I got it. I'll use it. But you can clearly see that these storms will be inherent with lightning. And I mentioned this because along the coastline, a lot of beachgoers. Now today, the storms along the coast will probably hold off until the latter part of the afternoon, but I may not be able to say that for the rest of the weekend, all right? Hey, Kristen, we're trying to decide what's best day for a cookout. Yeah, I hear you. I use WeatherBug for lightning notifications. That's fine. That's fine. Until we have our CFLW, the app with our own lightning data, I appreciate that. I use one called Lightning Pro, I believe. I think it was a one-time $4.99 subscription. It's just so that I don't have the ads. But you do want to make sure that you have access to live lightning data. I think it's a great idea. That app allows me to circle a radius around me, and so then I get a lightning alert there. I use it obviously for, you know, pool days, and I use it to make sure anytime we're going to be outside that I have a good idea. But yes, it's a good, certainly, idea to make sure that you have live lightning data. Hey, Blue Goose, how you doing? 87 degrees. Yeah, 65% humidity is not bad. Yes, Blue Goose. 2 demerits for being tardy today. How dare you, right? How dare you be tardy? I appreciate you tuning in, Blue Goose. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. All right, so again, stormy afternoon. I'll be monitoring it. We could get some downburst winds that could produce the 40 to 50s plus. So I'll be monitoring that situation. But now let's talk about the weekend, all right? So I made this graphic as kind of just a broad brush, and then we're going to get into the daily forecast, all right? So here are the impacts that I expect for the Labor Day weekend. It's going to be a wet, it's going to be a stormy forecast each day of the holiday weekend. Some storms could produce winds of over 50 miles an hour. That's the main threat, to go along with some heavy rain. Locally heavy rain is likely each day. In total, some areas between now and the end of Labor Day could get 3 to 5 inches of rain, and it's not going to shock me if a couple of isolated spots pick that up in one day, or we have totals that even go higher than 5 inches, right? Very intense lightning. It's going to be an issue. These storms are going to be noisy, and if you are headed to the beaches, things are going to be churned up a little bit, at least a moderate rip current risk. Please check in with the lifeguards if you're headed to the beaches. The beaches change all the time in regards to the rip current risk out there. So you're always going to see what flags that they're flying. Small craft, keep an eye out for the storms. And obviously the fresher winds will be kicking up the seas near shore as well. But it's not a fantastic forecast overall. We'll do the city by city forecast coming up. But the first thing I want to do is get back over to the weather computer and kind of break down, again, what I expect. If I go out to the broad view here one more time, right? If you guys are just tuning in, you can clearly see what is on the way. We're going to have this boundary stall out in the north central Gulf, through the east central Gulf, right over the peninsula, and then into the western Atlantic. And waves of mid-level energy will continue to fire up and produce, a lot of lift in the atmosphere to aid in the sea breeze activity. So it's a wet forecast. And then we got something else we got to talk about too. So let me go over here. We'll pick up the HERB model. I'll go ahead and start it from today as well. That's fine. And I'll take us out to Sunday morning, and then we'll look at some of the other models too. So here you go. I almost cringe to show you guys this, but again, is it a complete washout? No. Do I still expect it to be like dry through the early part of tomorrow? Yes. Then after that, I really can't guarantee you a lot of dry hours. I think there'll be some storms and at least some rain that'll be developing early Sunday morning, and then it gets even more widespread for the potential for some rain and storms Monday morning. So unfortunately, the deeper into the holiday weekend that we go, the better chances we're going to have for even morning showers and storms. And there's going to be extra cloud coverage as well. I think you guys are going to be shocked at some of the temperatures that we're going to be looking at, because there's a lot of times over the Labor Day weekend, we're still at 93, 95 degrees, and we're talking about how brutally hot it's going to be and that you got to get in the water if you want to be outside. This is a completely different forecast. But again, latest run of the HERB model, you can just see the waves of energy coming in. Still could see a few storms march inland, east to begin, but your general pattern of the rain is going to be west to east throughout the holiday weekend. All right. I hear you, Tay. Well, that's good sometimes too, though, right? Yeah, there's a lot going on. I have a morning tea time at Disney Sunday. Your opinion? Man. So I'm going to pull out what I say at Media Mundo, because a lot of people ask me like, hey, Rusty, I'm going to Cancun for the week. Should I go or not? I never give specific advice. The morning is better than the afternoon. But this, let's see here. I think the HERB gets us out to, this is, oops, I'm not there yet. This is 8 a.m. Sunday morning, so you can already start to see a few showers and storms developing. I certainly, on a Friday afternoon, would not say don't do it, but you need to keep an eye out on the forecast, and realistically, to go, and we all know how long, these 18 holes take, at least 4 hours now, right? 4.5, maybe even 5 hours. To get a completely dry forecast, all 5 hours, you would be lucky. If it's early enough in the morning, I feel a little bit better about it. If you're not teeing off until 10 or 11, and that takes you into the 2, 3, even 4 o'clock time frame, the deeper into the afternoon you go, the worse your chance is going to be is getting this complete round in, right? That's what I would say, Craig, and I wish you the best. You're welcome. No problem. I mean, again, if it's a 7 a.m., 8 a.m. tea time, you're looking better. If it's 10, 30, 11, not as good. Because I can't rule out starting Sunday morning that we're going to have some of this already in play, right? But you could get lucky. This is not an all-day washout for everyone, but to get consecutive hours, right, numerous hours in a row of completely quiet weather, that's the problem, right? You're going to get breaks. You can probably get outside and get the barbecue done, especially if you're just doing some hot dogs, but to play a round of golf, to have a full day at the beach, right? To have a full day at the attractions and not have the weather impact you, I think it's virtually impossible, especially in the afternoon hours, right? Wish I had a better forecast, my friends, but that's what I'm looking at. That's the HER model. I'm going to go over to the NAM. I can just show you guys a lot of different things because I know it's such an important forecast. And so many of you have, reached out about plans and certain things, and I get it. So this is the NAM. The NAM is going to take us out to the evening of Sunday. Again, it's another high resolution model. Then we're going to look at the GFS through Monday. And then we have to talk about, starting Labor Day itself, does anything want to spin up? And could we be talking about another tropical system right over our heads? Just like we had with Chantal and just like we had with the two Invest prior, because the European model is beginning to get a little bit more aggressive with some potential spin up in our area. Now, appreciably, that would just produce more locally heavy rainfall and some gustier winds, but you can clearly see the spin that is inherent with everything into the central and the eastern Gulf that's just kicking this energy right over our heads. So if we go back over to the NAM model, this is going to be Sunday morning. Now, again, these models are going to be different. The NAM model is a little bit quieter overall on Sunday morning, but begins to spread this in again into the afternoon hours and becomes widespread deeper into the day. And even by 8 o'clock, it just kind of sticks around. So I don't want to say it's a slam dunk that we're going to have rain out there on the West Coast by Sunday morning, but I think it's on the doorstep at best, and it moves in pretty quickly. And these models sometimes, first of all, let's be clear. These models have a tough time in this environment picking up on the chunks of energy that's moving in, exactly when and exactly how much rain they can produce. This is more of the, hey, you just got to be prepared the entire weekend and even during the morning hours of Sunday and Monday for the opportunity for these storms to be in your area. To piecemeal out these individual mid-level circulations that are going to enhance this, it's very hard for the models to do, especially before it's kind of stalled out. Go over to the GFS. This one I'm going to take out to Tuesday, and then we'll get into that. Just happens to be west to east Blue Goose, no doubt about it right now. The East Coast sea breeze is just kind of pinned. It might try and move inland a little bit, and if it does, we're going to get an even better clash of the Titans here. Now, come on, GFS model. You got to be doing better than that. All right. I want to show you guys that. So what is happening right now is it's going under the new model run. So I'm going to do this. It'll take just a second. We're going to go back over to our cameras, because why not? And I'm just going to restart my weather system, and we should be able to pick up the entire new run of the GFS. Sometimes if I'm live and a model run is new and it's running in the background, it can get stuck. And so you just have to kind of shut it down, let it reset. But we have these cameras. We have other things to look at, so we'll do that. Again, you can clearly see that already in Winter Garden, even from when I've been on. We're developing a little bit of the low-level moisture, a little bit of darker clouds out there, just more, gray out there than what we had even at the top of the hour. Winter Park, again, thin and wispy. Nothing I expect to develop, imminently. But by 3 o'clock, we'll probably get a few more storms in these areas, and there's already a little bit of rain developing out towards the west. There's a live look to Conway at the hour as well. Again, just a little bit of development, not a lot. Give it a little bit of time. That should be back on. Just says, not unusual for something to develop a stalled front. Yep, no doubt about it. Especially if it wants to stick around, right? The longer you give this some time to stick over our area, the better chance that we have to see that. And again, look at the Disney area, still looking pretty good there. Even the winds are pretty light. Hey, Palm Bay Jags fan. Well, no, believe it or not, we're at 6 named storms, which is right on par. The Hurricane Season Center has come back out and said we still expect an above normal season. We had a 30 to 40 day time frame last year where we didn't have a named storm from mid-August to mid-September, and we still ended up in the high teens. So tame in the sense of that the 6 named storms have not produced a lot in the way of damage, and that we're very fortunate that Cat 5 Aaron missed areas. But down the road, do I still looking at a high opportunity for some active storms in the area? Absolutely, right? So no, nothing that I've seen says it's going to be tamed down. Now, we might be a little bit quieter than we typically see in early September. We have the one wave out here, which is going to progress, and we'll have to monitor that. And I think close to home, we've got to watch out as well. But the latter half of September in the broader wave features here, the waves, the long longitudinal waves that go across the entire globe, tend to support more activity. So I do expect us to get active again. It's more about the fact that these 6 storms haven't done much to land masses than the fact that we've just haven't had a lot of storms. All right, so let me bring up, again, I said I want to go out to Tuesday, and I hope and believe that we will get a full model run now. Yeah, all right. So again, this isn't as high res, it's a global model, but just to kind of pick up on the idea that we're just going to stay wet and stormy, right? That even through Labor Day, Monday, there's a lot of green on this map, and even into Tuesday. Likely seeing a 70 to 80% chance of rain through Tuesday, and you notice that the boundary itself just kind of sags over the area and doesn't go anywhere. When I show you guys what we call the vorticity product, this is a spin in the atmosphere. I use this a lot on my Media Mundo channel because it's a good analysis tool. It's not at the surface, it is a composite of the low levels of the atmosphere, but when you're looking for little pieces of energy and spin, this is a great product to see. So again, based off of the GFS model, you can clearly see that there are a couple of pieces of energy here that are trying to rotate underneath the broader spin, and even a little bit here late into the period. The European model really doesn't begin. It has a couple of ensemble members with a few little spin ups off of our East Coast, but if there were something that we're trying to develop in the Gulf, it really doesn't try and pick it up until either late Labor Day or on Tuesday, and you can see a little bit of that twist right there. Now again, how quickly could this develop? We'd have to wait and see. But I don't want to completely discount that at the beginning of next week, we might be talking about the fact that the Hurricane Center has put some risk of tropical development into the Eastern Gulf and the Western Atlantic Basin. I don't think it's out of the question based on kind of everything that I'm seeing. All right. So again, kind of right over our heads. If we look at the surface winds associated with this, just going to loop this up. Again, you can clearly see here, it's still broad and elongated, but you're going to get a little bit of surface-based even spin here from time to time. So here's kind of one little area right here, then working its way up the Gulf Stream, and then down the road, just, a little twist here. Nothing outrageous, not a lot of wind profile associated with it, but it's a very active area to have to monitor, I think, for the next couple days. Hey, Charles, getting some rain? Good. Glad to hear that, pal. All right. So I'll go over to the live radar again real quick as well. And, the first showers are beginning to develop in southern Marion, portions of Sumter County. So a couple of showers over the villages, Lake Pan. When we look at the live lightning count, looks like we have 9 lightning strikes right now. And this is fully, no filter on this. So a little bit of lightning. Lake Pan back towards Bushnell, going to try deeper into Sumter County. It's the beginnings, my friends. You can see them kind of beginning to spot up even back into Hillsborough County. All right, so let's break down your city by city forecast. Now that I've just said it about every way as I possibly can, how wet it's going to be. So here we go. For the attractions area. And again, it's not about if you're going to get storms. It's about me trying to do the best I can to break down when is the highest chance that you're going to get storms over the weekend. So for the attractions, I do expect rain and storms to begin tomorrow as early as 11 a.m. or late morning, if you want to call it that, give or take a couple of hours, okay? Rain and storms are likely to redevelop Sunday morning at about the same time. And then for Labor Day, I can't rule out you wake up with some showers and a few rumbles of thunder even on Labor Day for the attractions. So if you are headed to the attractions, again, I don't want to say it's a complete washout, and you guys are in charge of your own lives as far as what you want to do based on the forecast that I'm giving you. But to have chunks of time that are completely dry and storm-free, that's going to be few and far between. And if you do, consider yourselves quite lucky. Then look at these temperatures. It's still 91 tomorrow, right? Just slightly below average, but we're 89 Sunday and then 86 with the thick overcast skies, with the rain and storms early in the day, 86 for the daytime high on Labor Day, morning lows that will stay in the lower 70s. Still a bit of a heat index tomorrow, and then that should fade on Sunday and Monday. But again, an 80% chance overall each of the 3 days. For Clearwater Beach, so to the west coast. Again, storms, are going to be a little bit less prominent along the west coast earlier to begin, at least the weekend. So west coast beaches look a little bit better earlier tomorrow. If we're going to get some storms along the west coast, generally those will start in the afternoon hours. It'll be a 60% chance tomorrow, but then the storms do become more widespread the deeper into the weekend that we go. So widespread, again, mainly afternoon storms. Can we get an okay, Bradenton, Sarasota, Anna Maria Island, Clearwater Beach areas, St. Pete, can we get that? It's a possibility both Saturday and Sunday mornings and into the early afternoon. But by Labor Day, again, I think pretty much we're shrouded in overcast conditions with all-day shower and storm chances overall. Temperatures there will be in the upper 80s for the next couple days and 86 on Labor Day itself. Morning lows that will be in the mid-70s. For Daytona Beach, storms again will be more prominent in the afternoon hours. Now, the caveat is that, especially tomorrow, the East Coast sea breeze might try and nudge in the late morning, early afternoon, and there could be a few showers with that. But mainly speaking, if you live along the East Coast, look back inland, these storms will be working your way back in. So still mainly afternoon storms, Saturday and Sunday. We could get a couple of showers late morning, but more widespread afternoon and evening. It's an 80% chance. And then the rain and storms start earlier on Labor Day as well. So again, could be daybreak, could be mid to late morning, but I certainly think there'll be the opportunity for some storms along the Volusia County coastline, Ormond Beach, Ponce Inlet, Wilbur by the Sea, Port Orange, all those places, New Smyrna, before the lunch hour on Labor Day. And again, temperatures are cool, okay? You want to head to the beach, you want that 90-degree day with the sunshine. We're not going to have a lot of sun, and temperatures along the beaches will only be in the lower 80s along the East Coast. So not the best temperature as well to go along with the fairly cloudy skies and the numerous showers and storms. Again, is it a washout? No, but take what you will out of this forecast. Morning lows in the upper 70s. Then for the Brevard beaches, so we go a little bit farther down the coast. Storms, again, are going to be numerous in nature. For tomorrow, they're going to mainly be afternoon and evening storms. So again, can you sneak in some, beach, dry conditions? It's not out of the question, right? Now, I think the question for the Brevard beaches is, do we get the morning round of showers and storms, or at least some morning rain on Sunday? That's one of the questions in the forecast. It's a little less clear to me, but I do expect then more numerous widespread storms to develop Sunday afternoon. Again, any of this activity could produce locally heavier rainfall and the gusty winds and all of that. And then rain and storms start early in the Brevard beaches on our Labor Day. Again, waves of rain and storms passing throughout the day. Not a great forecast. A few upper 80s outside, but look, Satellite Beach in the Atlantic, Melbourne Beach, the daytime high on Labor degrees, lows that will be in the upper 70s. So again, one more time overall, the impacts from this front stalled over us. Wet, stormy forecast through the weekend. Some storms could produce 50-mile-an-hour winds, 3 to 5 inches as a total in some spots, but it's not going to shock me if a couple of areas get that in one day, or if they get a couple of rounds of heavier rain and storms that they go above that 5-inch mark. Intense lightning. These storms are going to be hot. Please be very cautious. There's a lot of instability in the atmosphere with all that mid-level energy rotating in. So when you get that lift, these are pretty hefty storms with a lot of lightning. So please keep that in mind. And if you are headed to our beaches, First of all, enjoy yourselves. Secondly, please keep in mind that the rip current risk will at least be moderate, and make sure you check in with the local lifeguards as the conditions change very quickly. Speaking of the rain, I think the first thing I'll do is just bring this up. This is going to be the GFS model. And again, it does favor the East Coast for the highest rainfall totals. I think it's underdoing it a bit. I can already tell you that. But you can see the pockets of some of that heavier rain along the East Coast. But in this environment, the global models, I just want to take it out throughout the entire weekend. The global models don't do nearly as good as our mesoscale models. So let me go to the HER. And this is just going to be through Sunday morning, right? And this is a little bit more indicative of what we could see. Locally heavier downpours in spots. So there's your, and again, let's not sit here and say Sanford and Deltona are going to get 5 inches of rain. But please note that these kinds of rainfall totals are possible from the I-4 corridor east through Sunday. And then it gets even more widespread along the West Coast on Monday. But you get the idea of how some of these areas could be extremely wet, right? Now look, it could be Palm Coast that gets the 4 inches of rain and Daytona Beach that gets the inch. But the opportunity for that kind of heavier rain is available, right? Just numerous pockets of 2, 4, 5+ inches of rain. And this is just between now and Sunday morning. That doesn't basically count Sunday and Monday, right? So not fun. Hi Fiona, how you doing? Appreciate you jumping in. Hope everyone's doing well today. And then if I zoom this out, it's just wet. So much. We can look at the NAM. It should have, this may not have total actually, I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. Look at the wrap. Yeah, so here's another model. Again, you're just going to see a few inches of rain in some of these spots. This is not as high resolution, but you get the idea. There's like not a dry spot in Florida over the weekend. And then, you know, this could end up being a very wet forecast overall. Let's see, that one doesn't have it as well. So I wish the HER obviously went out a little bit farther in time, but I think that's the best representation of what I feel like is going to happen. That between now and even Sunday morning, you just get pockets of very heavy rain, and it's very widespread overall. All right, wish I had better news for you guys. I feel like Debbie Downer, but I want you guys to be prepared for what we're going to see. We'll go back out to the radar live for you here. Again, already tracking a couple of developing showers and storms, a little bit over the villages, so running our friends in there from the golf and the pickleball in Lady Lake and Fruitland Park, Coleman, Lake Pan, southern sides of Marion County. All of this will track off towards the east. Even a couple of showers developing over the Umatilla area at the hour as well. And again, you know, we're just getting thicker cloud coverage coming back on already, right? Already beginning to see a little bit of that. And then you've got the really dense cloud coverage off to our north, where again, if you're just tuning in, temperatures up north are very, very cool for this time of the year, right? Some 70s and 80s there. And that extra cloud coverage is what's going to bring us some of that cooler weather over the weekend. Friends, does anyone have any questions about our holiday weekend forecast? You're welcome, Chessie. It's my pleasure. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in for the live version of this show. Again, the reason why I do this is so you guys have a great understanding of what I feel is ahead for the next few days, right? That way, if I come on live at any point in time, you guys have a better understanding of why I'm on live, right? Okay, well, Rusty talked about this during the Friday live show, during the Monday live show, so I have a better understanding of what I expect. Or if you're just wanting to be outside, trying to plan some outdoor activities, this show hopefully certainly helps you guys out. I appreciate all the interaction, you guys jumping in the chat and commenting and asking me questions and all of that. That's the reason why I do this, guys, so we can have this live interaction. I do appreciate those who watch the recorded version of this. Again, remember, this becomes a recorded video under the live tab of CFLW once I'm done. And you can watch it at your leisure. Obviously, it's a bit time sensitive, but it's also a bit evergreen. Today, tomorrow, watching it, you're still going to get a really good understanding what's going to be happening for the Labor Day weekend. You can always ask specific questions in the comment section below as well, even if you're watching the recorded version. I do appreciate all those who have found ways to support the channel via the super stickers, the super thanks, and other ways in the video. Again, we're reinvesting in the channel when you guys do that, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's break down what's going to be happening over the weekend. Obviously, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on things. And just like yesterday evening, if the storms become rowdy in nature, and I think there's a reason to come back on live, even if it's not even a severe thunderstorm warning, I will do so. This to me also feels like a weekend where I might be running our weather system for a time each and every day, right? So I may not necessarily be on live, but having the live radar and our live cameras and some other live current conditions and some forecasting available to you guys here on the CFLW YouTube channel is something I'll be monitoring. So if it's just kind of a wet, stormy forecast, but there's not a lot of strong or severe local storms, keep an eye out and have the notifications on, because I might be running our radar system here over the weekend from times. Again, that would be intermittently potentially popping on live. We just have all of these tools available to us here at CFLW, so might as well take advantage of that to give you guys, the most up-to-date information, to show what's happening in real time with these storms. So look out for that, which is why I do recommend you guys have all notifications on for this channel, because it is a live-only channel. So if you go to that bell icon, you click on that, you're going to see a couple of different notifications you can choose. I would recommend having all notifications on. Okay, friends, please remember the CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It is storm season. You get storm damage of any kind. We know the wind, the hail, the hurricane, but even if you've had a burst pipe, and we never like to go through the insurance claim process, but you want an advocate on your side if you do, they can walk you through that insurance claim process, and they offer free consultation and policy reviews. So you want to support someone who supports us here at CFLW, go to leanonmelaw.com. Friends, I will keep a very vigilant eye on the storms. Please have a wonderful, safe Labor Day weekend. Again, more than likely, there's a high chance I'll see you between now and Monday evening, but if for some reason, if I don't, or you don't have an opportunity to tune in, please be safe and enjoy. Thank you so much for jumping in the chat. Thanks for taking that quick second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well. And again, I'll be monitoring things for you. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you soon.